Welcome to an episode of The Diplomats. I'm here with the original, unedited Umble the Heap. We're going to talk about his game one, round one of the Cascadia Open virtual face to face diplomacy tournament, which wrapped up on January 29th, 2021. And Umble, I didn't list your name here, but in a very competitive tournament with a lot of players, you made the top seven.
I always do well in the tournaments that don't have top boards. I don't get place, but I get enough to get into a top board when there isn't one. It seems so. That's technically, if you go all the way back to when I first did some face to face, I'm 5 for 5 in all my tournaments for ones that aren't top boards getting in the top seven.
But if there is a top board, how does that go?
Well, in the one there was, I started off good in the first round and then ended, I think, 13th.
So
So
0 for 1.
yes, 0 for 1 on top boards there.
All right, I've always got to keep you humble. Uh,
There's plenty to do there.
all right, but that was a great player list, including yours truly. And let's talk about round one. But before we do that, I think you owe the listeners to talk a little bit about our sponsor, diplomacybriefing.com, who sponsors this podcast. And we are glad that they do it. It's a vital resource.
Yes, Diplomacy Briefing is a weekly email about everything going on in the hobby. It lets you know tournament results. It lets you know the tournaments that are upcoming, any new, really any great news that happened that week in the community of diplomacy. And so you'll find about variants, new tidbits in diplomacy, new interviews that come out. And then we always include a strategy article each week. And in fact, this Friday is going to be the winner of Cascadia and really put together, in my opinion, one of the best Champions Corner articles we've had. And it's in fact the co-host here of the Diplomats, his first tournament win, and did a amazing job on winning this. In my opinion, one of the most impressive tournament wins, and got two best countries and completely on a diplomatic level, worked both his boards. So congratulations to you, Ed.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I was very happy to get it. While I have an actual cigar in my hand, my tournament results the last 3 or 4 months have been improving, but I would say close, but no real cigar. So I was happy to actually get the cigar and enjoy a win. But it was a great tournament. I had a lot of fun and had to sweat it out there a bit at the end.
Well,
But
and here's what's interesting. So there was some mix up in the first boards there at Cascadia. And in the very first, iteration of where everybody was going to be, you were put on England and I was Turkey, I think, or Austria. No, I was Austria and you were England. And then they changed up and they separated us. And be interesting how that tournament would have turned out if you and I were on opposite ends.
it would have been. I was actually a little disappointed because when I when I first they changed the boards and then they told me I was England. I was still going to play England, and then for my game, I guess due to some glitch in backstab or whatever, I ended up playing Russia. And Chris Brand, world champion Chris Brand, came in, who was running the tournament. It was a great tournament. He said, just play the country everyone got assigned. And I'm like,
Yep.
oh, man, I just had a really bad game with Russia 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, I was,
But you, yeah.
yeah, I was happy with my change because I went from Austria to France, and I'm okay with Austria, but I tend to be a lot stronger in the West than the East, as at least with at least my results in that way. And so I went over to France, and
Well, hold on. Before you start talking, yeah, you went over to France, but I mean, did you know many of these players? Eber Condrel, of course, is a administrator, moderator, bigwig at Nexus. So did you know him very well?
so we've talked, and you know, just through Discord. Never played a game together. No, that's not true. We played each other in the Cold War variant on VDIP. So I that's when I had first encountered him, but not like a real diplomacy game, but we knew of each other and had some discussions. And then Mike, who was Germany, me and him had played in a game in DixieCon. He was on the other side of the board, but we both got best countries out of that game. I got best England and he got best Austria. And then later he became a supporter of the briefing. So there were some positive vibes there. So on my side of the board, I felt like I had two people that I could work with either of them, and just had to depend what the dynamics were. And then Steve, who was in Turkey, I played a game with him, but he was on the other side of the board as England, and I know he's played a lot in the scene, but I think the game I played, it was one of his first times ever, and there were some mistakes made, but
I love Steve, but I always attack him. I've yet to actually play with him. I would look forward to that experience.
Well, I played in this game, this tournament. I played with him in this one and in the next game where I was England and he was Russia. So, got a little better sense, I feel, of him as a player, at least as an adversary.
And John Archbold, who I ended up, I had played with before, but I played Italy. I assume you did not know him.
No, I did not know him, and so that was a complete blank, and ended up becoming a little bit more. I would say that the relationship and decisions I made on Italy became really, in some ways, the best and the worst that kind of dictated this game. So in a lot of ways, I would say my worst decisions I made during the game. Looking back now, I missed some things that I could have done, and I feel like this coming in. Looking back, I think John had a lot of reservations about an IF, and I never was able to completely sell him that I wanted to work in the West, which was the truth. I wanted to focus there because.
And what about Yaromir is Austria, and I don't know who played Russia. Had you known them or played with them?
No, I didn't. Russia, I think it was their first virtual face-to-face tournament, and I think they ended pretty good for the tournament. I don't know if maybe it was top 15 or something like that. So they ended pretty good.
Okay, so you know what? I don't have the spring up, so I don't know why. Let me see. Yeah, for some reason I don't have the spring. But I wanted to note in the spring moves, you did not support a move into Belgium, which is your normal way. Instead, you just had Paris move to Belgium.
Yeah. So here's what happens. So I have great conversations with both England and Germany right from the get-go. I'm feeling good about everything. I talk with Italy, give the whole pitch. Look, man, I'm wanting to focus on my side. Yeah, I agree with that too. And immediately in the spring, Italy moves to Piedmont. And so then he goes and I see he's trying to have conversations with England and Germany, and there's this long three-way discussion.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And
Umble's good. He's France.
Right.
It's got to be scary.
Yeah, and I don't think he knew of me in any way, shape, or form. I think he just has a very big anti-French, and probably from games he's played in the past or something. I don't know. And so when I talk with him, I say, look, man, I said, there's a few things. I said, first of all, when I get attacked by three powers, as France, it's always Italy who I make sure does not get anything to eat. I said, you will be the last person. So unless they give you something, you will get nothing, because I can hold off England and Germany for a long time. But when Italy jumps in, that I have to make tough decisions. And so it's Italy ultimately that I punish in this situation. Now, with the personality, I mean, like, I don't know. I think you got to read the players. And of course, we didn't have any background either. I feel like that's an effective thing that's said to me, but I think sometimes people, when they hear that, they take it as a challenge. So,
right.
Especially, if your personality is one of like, hey, I want to dominate this thing. And it almost becomes, I guess, like I don't know, a pissing contest or something. And come to find out, I think as we go through the game, that he kind of took it that way. Now, I felt pretty confident that something was going to happen between EG. In my conversations with England, the idea had come up that I moved to Belgium, and he moves to Holland. Now I was pretty sure that I was going to get Belgium but when he moved to Piedmont, I had to prioritize my two builds with blocking him and also trying to get an ally. So my thought is going for Belgium and trying to do this guest thing with Italy was not going to be good. And so instead what I did is me and England agreed I'd go to Belgium, he would go to Holland. And so then I talked with Germany and I said, you know what, I got to go south. You just take Belgium. He'd agreed that I could have it and he'd support me in. Now, whether that was going to happen or not, I don't know. But I felt like I need to let him have Belgium and build some goodwill. And then if England actually does what he says, then, I'm going to have my choice of allies. And I told Italy too, I go, if this doesn't go the way you want, I will expect that in 1902, you move away.
So two interesting things here. I sometimes move to Piedmont, depending on the game, but a lot of times I'll hold Piedmont. So there's no anti-Italian build in Marseille.
Yeah. Here's what I told him too. I said, I just want to let you know, if you don't guess right on this, I'm going to be building Fleet Marseille. That's what I told him. And I said, if you don't move away from me this in the fall, I'm going to build Fleet Marseille if you don't guess right. And I said, now if you move away from Venice, you will not have to worry about that fleet build. Now that threat ended up being an empty one because I made the better tactical play, which I was going to do.
The other question though here is, I'm a little perplexed, right? Because typically, when I see an English bounce German out of Holland, there's also, France either gets Belgium or is going to block Germany and Belgium. Germany ends up with two builds here, and I would wonder in the back of my head if this was intentional EG work.
What do you mean? Like they agreed to bounce in Holland?
Right, because Germany knew he would be able to take Belgium because you were covering Marseille, and it made it look like it was, but you didn't take it that way. You believed this was good German will. Was Germany surprised at the end of this?
Oh yeah, for sure. He thought he was getting that, which is an interesting thought because he would have to think to himself, I'm either bouncing, and I get what you're saying completely. Maybe he thought that Belgium, everybody was going to bounce in that. I've not asked him that question. Like, what did you think England was going to do with that army? Because that's an interesting thought there, that maybe they just do something like that to play something off. But no, he was upset about that because it had not been agreed. And it wasn't hard to sell that to England because, first of all, England had, I should say it wasn't hard for me to sell to England to keep working with me because, first of all, he had burned that bridge with Germany at that point. And I could tell him, look, man, Italy moved to Piedmont, and I felt like long-term strategically, the best thing for me to do was to let Germany get Belgium and build goodwill, and at the same time, put that army into Spain and be able to move back out and get rid of the Italian threat. Now, the problem here too that I don't get with John is if you're going all in against me, you put a fleet into Tunis. So I think there were some tactical problems just with how John was playing this. I'm going to attack France. I think there's a lot of problems all around actually with this beginning play by Italy, but
And here you go. You put down the standard Army Marseille Fleet Brest, and England put down a Fleet London. Did you know that was going to happen?
I wasn't surprised or a problem. I'd rather him put down Fleet London than Fleet Liverpool, So he's not going to put Army London. So, but at that point I felt like now the thing that bugged me about Germany though, was that he didn't put, a fleet up there in Berlin, and he put an army instead. And you'll notice he deferred a build.
I see that.
Right. He deferred a build. And he said, well, I want to put a fleet in Kiel. And I told him, I said, I think he just wasn't planning ahead, because I was like, well, in the spring you can move a fleet to Kiel and then have a fleet in Hegland Blight. I said, you're making us lose tempo. Oh, well, I didn't think about that. So, and I believe him on that, but it's going to actually cost him, because I'm going to be the one that gets all of England in this game. Because he was behind.
All right. So at this point, you're definitely feeling good with Germany.
Yeah, I'm feeling good with both of them. England kind of has to go with me, so I can kind of orchestrate what's going to happen in the West from every side.
And what are you selling to England?
What am I selling to England?
Correct.
I mean, I'm going to have to think. I mean,
Well, we can look at the moves.
yeah. England is. I may have even mentioned about going to Skagerrak. I can't remember, but England's is I'm going to attack Belgium, and I'm going to set up to go on Italy. So if you're listening to our podcast the first time when I've talked about France, this is my ideal standard move set as France, because you have the option to either hit England or Italy in the fall and set up. You put a fleet into Spain south coast, you put a fleet into mid Atlantic, you move the army up, and then in the fall you're gonna move things into Gascony to do convoys or go towards Italy. And I don't remember the extent of the conversations I had with Italy about everything that was going to happen.
You must have said, I didn't build a fleet Marseille, so get out of my territory now, and there's nothing you can take. Something like that.
Yeah, and I had told him I was going to, and I said, look, you see now they're fighting. There's nothing for you to gain here. And I said, I'm expecting you to move away and we can have peace. Okay, I'll do that. So, that's what he did. But he's going to get spooked in the fall. And bug me again.
Well, this is a great set of moves. What I like about it is one of the things you always talk about is you as a player want options and you want as many as possible. And this gives you have options everywhere.
Right.
I love it. So let's see did you know which option you wanted to exercise? I'm going to assume you've talked about England, but right now with them committing so hard with Skagerrak and with Russia's building North Coast, you have to think England's vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. And I knew also that in the fall, this that army was probably going to get off the continent, so that would give me a little more options, because that he was going to be able to do a convoy or something. So it seemed to me, England was going to end up being the most open, and I think that's ultimately what caused me to make the play that I did, rather than trying to take some from Germany and move to Russia. And I think another part of that too. I mean, there was advantages. At the end of the day, I think whatever way I chose, whether I was going to go against Germany or England, would have been well for me, because I was set up in a good position, and Mike. I knew Mike better than England. I'd played with Mike, and I knew he was a good ally too, because I'd watched him play with another guy when we did a 3-way draw, and so I was real comfortable with him. I felt like I probably maybe could stay ahead a little bit too, a little more, and I think that's ultimately what made the decision.
I am surprised here that Munich does not move to Kiel. If he's going to move Kiel to Holland like that to protect the potential Denmark situation.
Well, I think Mike's not. I mean, there's a few strategic decisions that maybe are a little bit of a head scratcher. So that might be an area that, I mean, I think I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, he may have just been nervous about me. So
it's possible. Well, I mean, but yeah, if he was nervous about you, he could have still. I mean, I don't think it's likely he would have gone for Munich, but still,
he's definitely playing it safe, right? He's playing it safe. He wants to see what's going to happen.
Okay, so here's what happened. Denmark went down, but you give him a lifeline by moving, all in. But now Italy back in Piedmont.
Yep. No, and it's at this moment that I probably should have said, okay, I'm playing with a person that's really skittish, and as soon as I start to get centers, he's gonna go into freak out mode, and so I need to get a jump on him before he recognizes it. And I just kind of kept in my standard, okay, this is how I'm going to grow as France, and didn't really take that into account, and it didn't register with me. But yeah, he moves to Piedmont because he thinks, well, maybe those fleets are coming towards me, so I'm going to move to Piedmont because Marseille may come towards me. And that's not the end of the day. That's not a terrible move. To try to preempt something. But it should have said to me, this is someone he's gonna try to react more than maybe diplomatically talk things through. So
Yeah, and overall, it's even though England got Denmark, England lost Norway, which was the trade-off England decided to make.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, so
and he disbanded, so he's gonna get a build.
he couldn't get a build. Oh, he is going to get. Wait, he is or is not?
He is, because he gained a center, lost one, but disbanded it.
Oh, he disbanded. He disbanded Norway. Yeah, so he'll clearly build in Liverpool. Uh, did he talk to you after this? I always try and keep up talking with people even after I do something against them. But was there conversations between the two of you?
No, he didn't really reach out to me, and I didn't really reach out to him on that because there were, other people to focus in on. So I am going to reach out to him, but I don't think I really talked to him a lot the next year.
Right. I try and one of the things is I mean I go, I know you're mad and you should throw everything at me and I'm totally cool with it, but I will always be here to give you options. Is kind of how I pitch it.
Yeah, I did that. We had I said, look, I had a choice to make, and this is kind of the reason I did it. I said, it's nothing that you did. I think you're, a good ally and all that. And so I did say that. And I, as the game goes on, he's going to be more favorable to me than the other players, which, I appreciated. So yeah, I did do the kind of the obligatory, I should say, niceties after you stab. So yeah,
on a meta level, this is why I hate the West. I think all three powers are, a better growth potential, but the way my simple mind looks at it is the West is just a popularity contest. And you always have to be on the winning side unless you're France, get lucky, and just defend for a long time. But in the East, all I got to do is peel one off out of three. Well, I feel my odds are good at that. But pulling, it's slightly less favorable odds in the West.
Yeah, well, and just to notice too on the East, they take Bulgaria with a fleet. And I am early on working Austria that, there's going to come a time in this game where you and I are going to need to make decisions on how this board is going to end. And we need to be willing to make it. And at this game, because my last time I did France in a virtual game, Austria chickened out and wouldn't kill Italy with me to get a good three-way draw, which meant we had a four-way draw with the way the scoring system worked. And I was like 1 or 2 points away from, getting second or something like that. And I ended up getting fourth and getting out of it. And it was because Austria was a coward, in my opinion. And so I am in this game. That's very mindful. And I'm like trying to build a relationship with Austria. And he's a newish player. I mean, he would not, my understanding is he's not like, hey, I'm a top 10 placing person. So I'm trying to build this up and say, look, man, you got to play to get a good score in this. Don't play this game just to get a few. And so, we're building a, rapport. And I did this pretty consistently. John definitely seemed to me in Italy to be the more transactional player. But Austria was going to end up being the one to decide this. And so I'm working to do that. And when Italy put a fleet into Bulgaria, later on, I started talking to Austria. I'm like, look, Italy's not really your friend. Putting a fleet into Bulgaria is just for him. That's not great for taking out Turkey. It slows your progress. I said it's selfish. And
he didn't follow up with a move to the Eastern.
No. So there is a real strategic problem with AI, and there's going to end up being an air alliance.
Let's not give it away. We'll go line by line. Look, you see the fleet Liverpool, and I haven't seen the moves yet, but I know you've talked about how that Gascony army puts a guess on Liverpool and Clyde, but that you prefer Clyde, and sometimes you go to Liverpool. What was your thinking here in the Battle of Wits about what you do with it, if you do it? Am I right that you try and make a move on England with that army Gascony?
Yeah, that's the standard play, at least for me. If I'm doing a convoy, Gascony's a good one because you're you've got home centers you're protecting, but also it's ready to convoy. So I did Liverpool is what I ended up doing.
Okay, and I'm guessing you think you got to cover Marseille.
Yeah, I do Burgundy to Marseille. I'm not really worried about Germany at this point.
Especially with the fleet bill.
Yeah. I'm not worried about Italy. There's nothing for him to grab. He's focused in on the East. I'm not at this point. I have no worry about Italy, but I am going to do it just in case.
Oh, look at this. You
Yeah.
won the 50-50.
Well, and it's interesting. So I'll give a little tip to our listeners on this. And, because I can't remember if it was Russia or someone was like, why did you do Clyde? What made you do that? And I said, well, in this situation, I think it's not really 50-50 because diplomacy players want to do something, and holding is really difficult to do. It's hard to not do something. And because people want to move their units. And so that's my theory. I don't have the statistics or anything, but that's at the end of the day. I don't always go to it, but I felt like on a 50-50 guess, that's the one to do.
Yeah. And well, Germany gets a little lucky here that Denmark's the mover into Sweden.
Right.
Otherwise, he would have
Yeah.
Congo lined.
He must have probably known that. There might have been some negotiations going on there or something.
Okay. And then we go to the fall, and you just
But of course, the thing there too is why doesn't he just support,
Well, that's my question. How go into Denmark?
Yeah, or if you're gonna do that thing, do kill to Denmark.
Kill to Denmark. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure there was some kind of thinking. Maybe it was a diplomacy part of it.
It is the same exact result if he supports Helgo.
Right.
I kill to Denmark.
Yep.
So okay, and luckily your German player held with those.
Yeah.
With those.
No, I wasn't worried about that.
Units.
I was not worried about that. Germany was going to be solid, so no, I wasn't worried about that.
Okay. So in the fall, I'm assuming you have pretty good relations with Russia. He's got a fleet in Norwegian, though. I mean, how do you feel about that as France? Yes, it's helpful against England in the short term, but now you got two fleets and an army up north.
Yeah, I didn't really like it, but there wasn't a lot I could do, right? At this point. So I'm building a relationship with Russia, and my whole thing with him is we're going to split Germany and get this to a three-way draw. And I'm telling Russia, look, it can be you, me, and Austria, or you, me, and Italy. I don't care. Let's get this to a three-way draw. So that's what I'm telling Russia. It's interesting. I talked with at our second game. I talked with the guy who board topped, and I was just getting some of his questions. And he said, one of the things about you is you don't modulate your voice when you're not telling me the truth. And a part of it is I feel like when I'm negotiating, like I am trying to negotiate for what I would like to see happen in the relationship. It's not like, there's definitely times where there's some deception, I suppose, when you're playing.
You very rarely outright lie.
Yeah.
Your strategy is more to get people to do things in your favor.
Yeah, I find that to be, as the game goes along, you're going to get more rewarded by that by playing more straight up. Nothing bugs me more as people than lie to me about stupid stuff. Like, you don't have to tell me the truth. Just say, like, let me think about it. But to say I'm going to do something and it doesn't even matter whether to lie or not, that turns me off. And I'm willing to kill people for that, because it's like, I can't trust you to even make the simple decision, to play the game, in my opinion, the right way.
Right.
It feels like you're dealing with a toddler that will lie to you about things that don't matter. And it's like, you don't really get the game yet. And so because of that, I can't work with you as an actual ally.
It's one of the things I like about Tanya Gill's game. And I think one of the reasons she's very successful is she doesn't have a problem saying no.
Right.
No, I don't want to do that. No, I don't think that's in my interests. Mm-hmm. And you give a lot of credibility being straight with people.
Yeah. If you're going to not do something you said that you were going to do, you need to be able to give a really good reason why you did it. And it can't just be, hey, especially when it's a plan that you put in place that was really important. And There needs to be a very good reason why you didn't do it. And so, like going all the way back there to England, I told him, I said, look, I saw how long all three of you guys talked together because you guys talked for like 4 or 5 minutes, all three of you. And I said, I could not in any way jeopardize making Germany mad and making everybody else mad by going for it. And I said, and I had to block Italy too. And I said, I was going to go to Belgium, but after that happened, I just couldn't do it. And that was true. I didn't. That was ultimately what changed up everything.
So let me ask you this. Okay, so we're here in follow through. It's before the builds. You have a great year. You're going to get 2 builds. You have no enemy in Germany. Italy's moved away. And now Germany is taking very anti-Russian, I would suspect, anti-Russian moves here and pro-French. What are you thinking before I see what you lay down?
Yeah. So in this moment, this was a very key moment. There's a few key moments in this game. This is the fall 1903, and so 1904 is really a make and break year. Here, I'm going to do my standard, just take England out, and then set myself up to most likely. My thought at the time is I'm going to hit the West, and I just wasn't. I wasn't thinking through the possibilities of how to move east. And 1904 is I'm going to miss an opportunity that I think cost me a much better score.
Okay. Well, that was wrong. You only got 1 build. I assumed I looked at Edinburgh for a second. So you got 1 build. You built Fleet Breast. Germany puts down an army. Didn't have anywhere else to build, but that's probably okay. So what's the plan?
So the plan is take Edinburgh, convoy, take London, wipe out England, and then make your next move. And so pretty standard stuff, convoy, support in, set yourself up, and fall. So at this point, this is the moment right now that I need to make a decision on what I'm going to set up. And in my opinion, because at the same time, I was having conversations with Turkey, as I recall, and it was either this game or the other game because Turkey died in both of those games. And I'm pretty sure it was this one. And Turkey was asking, hey, well, what do you think I should do? And I said, prioritize somebody who, be the one person that gets the units from you rather than it be an even split. And he said, well, who do you think it should be? And I told him Italy. And the reason was because I thought there was a greater chance that Italy would stab Austria than Austria to stab Italy. That was my thought. And I really messed things up there because I should have sensed to myself, you know what? Mike's going to be the better ally to ride this thing out with. And Italy is just not going to come through. And Austria is not going to come through. And I should have told Turkey, look, block Italy. And then I should have done mid-Atlantic to Western Mediterranean, just started to go. And I missed the opportunity to make that play. And I believe I could have had some good options there. Maybe not, but I think I would have got the jump enough to be able to start taking units. And there might have still been a stalemate at the end, but I chose to say, let's go to the West and continue to get units there. It was the more straightforward way to go. But I don't know if it was the right one.
All right. So we see here in the spring, you did just what you said. Assume that round bounce in Belgium's a range because you don't know about
right. It was.
C.
Yeah, it was.
And here we go. It's mop up time, and you do commit the fleet mid-Atlantic to English Channel.
Yep. And so I'm going in and I'm setting up to take the north and just hold basically I'm going to have the pressure in the west to do whatever I want. If I want to go over the top and get Russian centers, if I want to push towards Italy.
And boy, doesn't that fleet build not made in Berlin in 01 come back to haunt Germany.
Yeah. And because he's had no play on England and I've just taken him out. And England has decided that who he wants to play against is Germany. I mean, I guess he couldn't do much to me, but we had the deal that we had worked out. I said is, you know what, you need to move North Sea to Skagerrak because he knew he was getting Russian support. So I said, you need to move North Sea to Skagerrak. I don't completely remember what all was supposed to happen now, but anyway, yeah, something like that.
All right, so you're about to build this time for sure too. Am I? I'm going to guess that you're like, Germany's been a good ally, and he's on his heels. So I feel like I can get some Russian, push back Russia a bit, and maybe pick up some Scandinavia now.
Yeah, that would have probably been that would have been probably a good thing to do. You know, I had a really difficult decision on what to do at this point, and
Sure, you can see you have all these options.
well, and let's just say, like, I'm full 1904, and I'm at 8 centers with the entire corner carved out, with so many different, like, I've got decent enough relations with everybody on the board, and it's like you got to make a decision, and it's not clear cut which one is the best to do, and so I build Paris and Marseille, and I just kind of went strategically with, you know what, the German centers are there. I've worked something out with Russia. Let's go that way. Let's do that.
You have every cause. You have every. I don't think that's a bad strategy at all.
No, it's not. But it's not. It's not a bad strategy. But I think with the dynamics on the board in play, well, at this point, I have to do that because Italy is a long ways away, and so if I'm going to continue to grow, I have to have the options to go against Russia or against Germany. And the other thing too is I really worked hard to sell Germany to go towards Italy at this moment. And I said, I'm going to move my fleets down and I'm going to go into Piedmont, and I wanted him to go into Tyrolia. And he didn't really commit hard to that. And I really pushed him hard. In fact, I went probably too hard. And I in our conversations, I said, look, if you don't go to Tyrolia, I don't have any reason to really work with you. I said, I need you to do it. And that was probably way too hard to push. But part of the reason I was pushing so hard is because I did want to continue to work with Mike. Like, I really wanted to create the opportunity, and I had looking back, I'd missed the moment to really make that strong Italian push. So I even went that, like I need you to go to Tyrell if I'm going to work with you. And, whatever it was, I just decided, well, I'm going to have to grab some centers from Germany. And so the moves I end up making.
Hilariously, you sound so disappointed, yet I know how it turns out. You take the North Sea because the North Sea goes to Denmark. You move into Ruhr, Germany held again. Oh, you didn't even mutually bounce in Ruhr. I mean, this is bad.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and Austria moves in on them.
Mm-hmm. And at the same time too, Italy does a fleet to Tyrrhenian Sea.
Yeah.
So I know I'm going to have to counter that. And here was a big move I missed. And if you want, just go ahead and show what happened. And I tactically did not figure out what to do here. So I worked everything out with Germany. I said, you know what, I'm not going to take Belgium. I'm going to move stuff to the south, support me into Norway so I can get my build. Here's what I missed.
Thank God you didn't ask me.
Oh, you wouldn't have done it, huh?
No, I don't know what I'm missing looking at this, other than the beleaguered garrison. It's not a beleaguered garrison because he moved out.
Yeah, here's what I missed. I could have convoyed the Norwegian. I could have used Norwegian to convoy to Norway. I could have used North Sea to convoy Leiden to the North Sea and supported in from Ruhr and walked into Belgium and got 3 builds.
Oh.
And I could have figured that out. I knew what was going to happen. So I could have done that and jumped from 8 to 11 instead of just going from 8 to 9 and ending at 9. And once that happened, I could have stopped Italy and probably mopped up other units in Germany. I don't think I would have been able to solo, but I would have probably come out of that in David Hood level territory rather than being like 8th or 7th in the standings out of round 1. And I missed it. I missed that convoy because I knew I needed to go
Would you have
English to
supported the
Mid-Atlantic.
convoy in with Picardy?
No. What I do is I go Picardy to Belgium, right?
Oh, supported by North. Oh, I thought you meant convoy from London.
No,
No.
London goes to Holland with support from Ruhr, and Burgundy just support.
Oh, yeah, that would have been devastating.
Yes, I take 3 centers, 3 builds. And I knew English Channel had to go to Mid-Atlantic, so I knew that had to happen if I was going to hold and pull everything off. And so when that happened, I just missed the convoy through the Norwegian end. So I missed that. And you know, there was so many options at this moment. And when that happened, when I knew I had to go English to Mid-Atlantic, and you know, I'm telling Italy the same thing. As soon as that went to Tyrrhenian Sea, I said, look, I know how to do the stalemate line. You will not get anything. You're not going to get it. Oh, okay. I know that. And it was obvious what he was going to do. But then what it came down to was just trying to convince Austria to try to do a 3-way draw. And I even told them when all 3 of them, I remember I went into a room with all 3 of them, Russia, Austria, and Italy talking. And I told them, I said, look, I'll do a 3-way draw with any 2 of you that want. You just got to make the decision, which, you know, it didn't help. I'm sure it didn't help at all, but it was already committed. But, you know, I was working every angle I could, but it, you know, and I'm telling these guys, look, do you really want to end a game where you each get 13 points? I said, did you play, you know, 5 hours, 4 hours, whatever, to end at 13 points? Is that really what you want?
It's only 1905.
Yeah, we're in winter 05. But I know what's going to happen. I said, look, if you guys do this, this is how the game ends. I said, the game ends like this. And the thing is, at this point, you know, with Germany, because of how things worked out, he actually is getting a build. So Germany is second, right? He's at 7. I'm at 9. And then they're all down, you know, 6, 6, and 5. And so I said this. So over this next year, I'm just trying to say, look, there's more game to play here. You guys have more things to do. I'm not going to solo this, but you guys can do a lot better.
Well, you had some leverage. They moved back.
What'd you say?
Well, I'm looking at spring 1906, and they moved back. So obviously, you had some leverage, but
No. The reason they moved back was because Germany said, I will not attack France if you don't move back. He said, and if Austria doesn't move back, I am not going to attack France. And so I move my stuff into position. I see the fleets coming. I move my stuff into position and say, look, Italy, you're getting nothing. I said, you can wait this out if you want, but you're not going to be the one that gets any of my centers. So I said, it is what it is. You made this decision. I said, I think you had greater opportunity to grow in other places, but this is the decision you want. So, you know, I'm true to my word there. And that's why I didn't take Belgium from Germany at the time, because I just couldn't see it. Oh, there was another reason too I didn't take Belgium. I didn't realize at that moment it was the fall turn. It was a spring turn in my mind. So that was another reason why I missed everything, because I got confused. I've done that once before in this virtual time where I thought it was the spring and it was the fall. So that starts to happen when you keep getting tons of builds. So you lose track of a lot of things because your mind's going everywhere. And I lost track of that one because I remember when it went through and I realized it was the fall. I remember I just said to everyone, I was like, that was the fall. I would have done stuff completely different.
so here we go. Did Italy NMR, or he just gave up?
No, this is the end of the game, and whatever happened was an accident. You know, I don't know what happened there because I don't know what that was all about. We draw.
We draw. Yeah, you do draw. You board top on a 5-way with 9. Your alliance partner ended up being second, which even though you did make a move on him, he couldn't have been upset with.
Well, and I didn't take any of his centers, so that was kind of nice. You know, I made a move to set myself up and saw, wait a minute, that's not the wise decision. I'm not going to be greedy here because that's gonna, you know, that's going to be a problem. Like I said, there was a moment there where it would have been, I think, in my opinion, probably the best long-term play to do it probably that way. I could have probably been fine, but I missed it. But the truth is, going back another step, the better thing would have been to go on Italy and play that out with Germany. And really, in my heart of hearts, I wanted to do an FGA, but I could never get Austria to commit. And finally, the reason this draws is I came to Austria and I said, look, it is up to you how this game ends. I said, are you going to stab Italy? And he goes, well, I probably should, but I'm not going to do it. Bunch of cowards. And at the end of the day, and it wasn't because he didn't know there was a good position to be had. So I have a thing to say about air alliances. All right.
Okay. But I will say you ended up the round with 27.37 points, which ends up being, I assume, top 5-ish, top 6-ish after the first round.
No, I think it was top 7 or 8. I may have been top 6. It's 6, 7, or 8. It was something like that. But I was in play. Everybody that going into the second round were all so close together. It wasn't there was nobody out ahead. Nobody had solo.
Except for David Hood, who wasn't playing the round 2.
Right. He had got 44, but he wasn't doing round 2. So it was everybody's game going into the second round.
Yeah. Okay. You want to do the air alliances now, or you want to save it for the next episode, sir? It's up to you.
Let's say it now, because this is the worst type of air alliance. All right. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing an air alliance, but when you get to the mid game and you're still playing that through, there's a lot of these air alliances that are only together because it's a bunch of cowards playing together, and they're not. I feel like they don't see the board and what can happen. And I'm not saying this particular air alliance was wrong. I mean, I am, but it doesn't necessarily have to be wrong. But the only time these air alliances work out in a good favor is if you have a West that doesn't know how to do stalemate lines, because anytime that this happens and that air alliance doesn't break up, any competent player in the West, 2 of them, should be able to stalemate this thing unless they've just got an incredible jump. So I feel like an air alliance that's really going to stick together like that makes for a really boring board, and you get these 5-way draws that stink. And
so I've seen that. So in fact, my first game at Dixie was that. But yeah, with the caveat that you just put on there, I don't think they're cowards, but I do think what happens is if the air sees a way to get through the stalemate line, it can work out great, as it did for me in round 1.
Well, the other thing too is air alliances that stick together, in my opinion, are the worst for Italy and Russia, because Austria becomes the one that holds all the power once an air alliance continues. Now, the moment after Turkey is gone, in the moment Italy and Russia have the power. They have the power to collapse and split Austria. But once an air alliance gets going and Italy and Russia push their units away, all of a sudden now Austria is the one. And we've seen solos this way. We've seen a lot of Austrian solos. An air alliance gets started, and Italy, Russia, we're running this thing to the end, and Austria is the one that gets a solo because they leave themselves open. And the thing is, I'm not against an air alliance. I think it's a great alliance in the early game. But some of these air alliances I've been seeing in the virtual play that go past the mid game are based completely on cowardice, and they're not willing to make the move that actually resolves the board to a good standing. And in my opinion, at least on Austria is the one that I pin his cowardice on this one, because there were a lot of ways that, yeah, I was going to top the board anyway, but he could have greatly increased the score. And in fact, the DBNI crew says, you know what, there was a lot of play there in the East left to do, and they just left it. And I mean, could it have turned into a solo? I'm sure there could have been some revenge stuff, but if you had, at this moment, you dropped, 5 competent equal players into this is not the outcome that happened. And I, for the record, I'm just saying this type of airplay to me is cowardly. And anybody can get 2 buddies and just try to roll the board together. And okay, I mean, that's a way to play, but I don't think it's.
I think that as a challenge, and I look forward to our listeners looking at this nice little tease for my game 1, which will be an upcoming episode of the Cascadia tournament.
But let me say one thing on that. Like, I'm not saying air alliances can't roll the board together and it work out well, but with that caveat that it should be because you have a West that can't get it together, and that makes sense then to me to do it. But in this issue, this had nothing to do with the West couldn't get it together. This had to do with we don't know really what to do and we're scared. So let's band together. And it ended in 1906, which
Okay, well, darn those players for not giving you the solo
Yeah,
chance or a bigger
right.
board top.
right.
You know, they should have made more moves to get me more centers.
No. They could have increased their score, I think, with good play. But
All right. Umble, thank you for going over round one of Cascadia tournament. Thanks to diplomacybriefing.com for sponsoring us. Congratulations to you, Umble, for board topping this board, despite all your self-critique, which if other people are listening, he critiques himself just as hard as he critiques others, which is refreshing to see, but usually doesn't critique himself because he board tops much bigger than what he did here. But thanks, Umble, and good night.